Hi everybody, how are you today? Thank you so much for clicking on. Today we're still on the Vital Needs by Sharon Pearson. Our inner world needs what we need within us, regardless of what is going on around us, and our outer world needs what we need to experience when we interact with the world and those around us. So we've got inner world needs and outer world needs. So the vital needs model, the inner world needs, is we have to have a sense of gratitude. Gratitude for what we have in our life, the good, the bad, the dark, the light, all the obstacles that we've overcome and where we are now, our health. We've got to be grateful. It mightn't be, we may not be where we want to be. It mightn't be anything like we imagined it, but we have to still be grateful. Because when you're in a sense of gratitude, or how they say, an attitude of gratitude or a vibration of appreciation, when you are in that vibration, then good things happen. You feel better about yourself because you are not focusing on what you don't want. So gratitude. Next one, and this is a big one, and I have a special rock here. Next one is boundaries. And this is one of the most important and powerful messages that I have ever taken on, because I had absolutely no boundaries. And what I got here is an amazing boundaries rock. How's that? Boundaries rock, did you know that? Found that down at the local beach. If we've got to set boundaries for ourselves so other people, we know, and other people know what we'll tolerate and what we won't tolerate. So we can get treated, so they can recognise our boundaries, respect them and reciprocate. It's a reciprocal thing that we're going to work on, because if you respect my boundaries, or if I respect your boundaries, you respect my boundaries, and if you don't, boom, game over. Goodbye, I'll cut you loose. So that is what we're going to work on, our boundaries. We also have to be in touch with our emotions so we can be aware of them and feel them and express them and heal them. And we have to be making progress. We have to have a sense of progress. There's that old adage, or I don't know, but very commonly used one, where you're either green and growing or ripe and rotting. And nobody wants to be there, but it is just an absolute fact that we have to be making progress in our lives to have meaning in our lives, to feel worthwhile. So that was the inner world needs. The outer world needs are to be loved. Everybody, every human being, and animals, I think, as well. We need to be loved. We need to feel loved. We need to feel significant. We need to feel important. And we need to have a sense of individuality. We need to be loved and respected for who we are and the individual magic that we bring to the planet. We have to have a sense of stability. Like when our life's chaotic, our relationships are chaotic, everything's chaotic from go to woe. House will be chaotic, car will be chaotic. How do I know? Don't tell anybody, but I've actually been there. So we need to know that people love us. We've got a roof over our head, we've got food, and we've got to know that whether we're enough. We've got the certainty to take on the world and know that whatever it gives us, we can handle. We can handle. You know, sometimes it mightn't turn out so well, but we can still handle it and we can learn from it. And the other one is that we have to know that we matter, that we are important to people. And we have to, I'm just glad that this little thought just came to me then, that we actually have to do that for ourselves. Otherwise it won't happen. But if we can have, especially when we're growing up, if we can get that from our caregivers, whether it's our parents or whoever took care of us, if we can get that from them, then where that's going to be meeting our outer world needs. I'd like to ask you, do you know anybody who had all that stuff going on? Whether it was your parents or anyone, not many people at all. Your inner world is the limit to the world out there that you can experience. If you want abundance, if you want laughter, if you want warmth, love, the journey is within. We've got to go within. So the vital needs model for our inner world needs is gratitude, sense of gratitude, boundaries in place, healthy boundaries, where we can access our emotions and feel them and process them, and we are having a sense of progress. That's our inner world needs. Progress. We got to be making progress all the time, or we wonder why we're here. Inner world needs, again, conditioning. Conditioning means that we arrive at adulthood ill-equipped to trust ourselves. We don't know that we can handle what may happen. We feel lost, alone, overwhelmed, and we procrastinate and frustrate. When a stressful situation arises, many are swamped with the feeling of dread instead of that feeling of personal certainty that we can handle it. We can handle whatever comes our way. And when a stressful situation arises, it's exactly what I just said, because I was just repeating myself. It's okay. Many people live their lives avoiding stress, avoiding responsibility, and avoiding living because they do not trust themselves. They haven't built their inner world, so they have got nothing to draw on. Is there anybody out there who does not trust themselves? Sometimes it takes a long, long while to realise, and it's taken me a hell of a, like a decade, 5 decades, to find out that I don't trust myself. So the only way to get out of that then is have to start keeping promises that we make. We have to start delivering on what we say we're going to do. We've got to walk our talk, and we've got to build habits and rituals that keep us accountable and responsible, and that is how to build up our inner world. So we know that we can count on us. We can count on us. And gratitude's a big one, because if we constantly live this moment in preparation for another moment or a distant promise of happiness, then we will feel perpetually dissatisfied with ourselves and our lives. We need to know that this moment, as it is enough. As I said, it may not be anything like we wanted and nothing like we expected. We've got to have healthy boundaries in place. They are vital inner world needs. They are vital inner world choices that we need to make in our journey towards our centeredness and who we are at our core, our I amness. Healthy boundaries include living our values, knowing what we prefer, what we don't prefer, knowing what we tolerate, what we won't tolerate, what we feel is okay in our relationships and what we feel is okay in our choices. If we feel like doing something, most likely it's a good idea. There are different beliefs to that, so whatever it is for you, whatever works for you, that's what is by far is the best thing to do. We need mastery over our emotions. To restore our own core, who we are at our core, our own I amness requires restoring our emotional mastery. Now this is a big job. This is a very big job, to learn how to access our emotions, to learn how to feel them, to be able to articulate them to others. It takes a lot of work, because you can't fix 50 or 60 or 70 years of crap and not believing in yourself and having no boundaries where people can just walk over you. Oh, and look, I was probably the worst example ever of no boundaries. I didn't know what a boundary was. Even though I came off a farm where a boundary was a fence and we knew this was ours and that was yours, I had no idea that boundaries, like people had boundaries. I obviously met people on the way through who did have boundaries, and would not let me cross certain lines, but I had no conscious notion, none whatsoever, what a boundary was. And through religion, through schooling, all my life there, indoctrination, control, we had, especially going away to school, like in secondary school, we had no boundaries. We were not allowed to have boundaries. I realised, like 3 decades after I left school, I still had romantic notions about, the school, even though it was tough and there was a lot of abuse. There were still things I enjoyed about it, but I didn't realise, like when I was getting like physically abused, radically, I didn't realise, like I was a rebel, as I said earlier, but with that, I only realised this year that I was actually standing up for my boundaries. Even unconsciously, I didn't know, but I mean, what I was feeling was, hey, this is not good enough. You can't do this to me. There's a limit to what you can do. But we were not allowed to choose boundaries for ourselves. But I rebelled against that, and I wouldn't give in. And I always wondered why that was, and I only worked out in this last year that I was actually fighting for my boundaries. Even though they didn't have them laid out, I knew what they were doing was unfair to me. They should never have done that. They should never have done that to any human. And some of those guys, some of those people are in jail now. Most of them are probably dead, but some of them are in jail. And that's the best place for them, I think. But when we know how to access our sadness and our anger and our joy, we can experience flexibility in responses. We've got more choices because we've either got flexibility or rigidity. And rigidity is a very unhealthy system because you don't know where to go. Your beliefs are so screwed up, your focus is so on the wrong, like there's one way, there's the only way, and that's about what it is. So you've got very few choices of what you can do, but flexibility is a healthy system because with flexibility comes choices. Because you're adaptable, you can change. This is not working well, I can go down that road. This relationship's not working. Did my best, tried to get it to work, but no, it's not going to work, so it's over. Got to go that way. Again, when it comes to that sort of thing, there's a lot of boundaries, have been crossed and not validated. Feelings and emotions not validated and not reciprocated to us. So eventually, it gets to the point of no return. So we've got to have mastery over our emotions because just imagine a world where we talked about our emotions and our emotions were validated, because then we would feel validated. And when we're doing that reciprocally, that's a lovely word I got, but when we reciprocate and you respect my boundaries, I respect your boundaries, I allow you to express your emotions, whatever they are, and you can speak to me without fear of being judged. Just imagine a world like that. Well, that wasn't how we were brought up. And the big thing, the big thing in all of this is, like, I've had 4 children and, I made all the mistakes, like as that song says, I did all the dumb things. Sort of unconsciously insane, but had no idea. And but now that I know about it, I've really, this is important, and I want this cycle to stop because there's too much. It's just nonsense, and it's just brutal on the next generation coming through, and then they pass that on to their kids. To handle that, though, we do need to be gentle with ourselves. We need to face the problem and admit to it and be able to talk about it. but we have to forgive ourselves. We've got to let that go so we can move on. And this is an amazing saying that I came up with that I just love, is that we have to let it go. We've got to feel the pain of our mistake. We've got to own it, got to take responsibility, and then we got to let it go. And we got to forgive ourselves. But just let it go, flush, and don't look back. That's the best, and that's about the only advice that I'm going to give you, but that's great advice. You like that? Flush and don't look back. If you don't like it, well, just check what you're looking at. Then you can rethink that. We've got to have a sense of progress. When we wallow, we wither. Again, if we're either going forward or we're going backwards. We're green and growing or ripe and rotten. We're going forward or we're going backwards, and that's it. That's it. Because when we wallow, we wither. When we obsess about something without actually changing our lives or that thing, we poison our thinking, our happiness. When we become rigid and unyielding to the possibilities, we shut off closeness to ourselves and to others. So rigidity is being stuck in a rut. It's stuck in the comfort zone. It's procrastinating, never getting anywhere. I've said it before, and I'm one of the world's worst procrastinators. I'm a recovering procrastinator. And what I say is procrastinators are masturbators. I said mass debaters. They're debating all the time, but the fact of the matter is there is no happy ending, and you get nowhere and you do nothing, and life passes you by. It's all over. So we got to get out of that comfort zone and get rocking. Get taking action. Just take risks. Learn how to take risks. Learn how to decide, make decisions. Because if you're a procrastinator, you're a terrible decision maker. How do I know that? Yes, that's right. Don't you tell anybody. So, and the impact on our neurology is significant. We stagnate. We defend a status quo that does not even serve us, does not fulfil us. We reject moments that could have been filled with beauty and love and happiness and spontaneity and wonder. That's a better way to go. What do you reckon? So how's it sitting with you? I hope that you're resonating with some of this, identifying with some of this. Our outer world needs are the experience that we want to create, encourage and nurture in our interactions with the world and with the people in our world. Our 4 vital outer world needs, when met, give us a feeling of certainty about who we are, what we stand for, and that we matter. Our outer world needs aren't about getting more stuff. They're not about getting a promotion, although this can be part of it. Our outer world needs are about becoming someone who knows their place in the world and loves it. They love who they are. And I'll tell you what, that is a big journey. To learn to love yourself and be there for yourself. Hold your own hand. So the outer world needs to be loved. Have a sense of individuality, who you are and the magic you bring to the planet. Have that sense of stability and to know that you matter in the eyes of everybody, that you are in contact with. You're cut off the toxic ones, but with all the others, you know that you matter. And so, the inner world and outer world, they're sort of working together all the time. What is within us is reflected to us by our outside world. Who we are is shown to us by the world around us and the experience that we attract and repeatedly seem to have. Carl Jung said, it all depends on how we look at things and not how those things actually are themselves. I think what he actually said was, when we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. If it wasn't Carl, it was someone like that. So how well we are able to fulfil our inner world needs will shape how we perceive the world around us. And there is a causation between the inner world and the outer world. And when our inner world and outer world are working in functionally and resourcefully together, we've got gratitude. We've got a sense of gratitude. We are feeling loved. We've got boundaries in place, and we have a strong sense of who we are. We've got a strong sense of our identity and our individuality, and we love ourselves. We have to be in contact with and be able to draw on and identify and feel our emotions, and we have to have that sense of stability, that we know that people care about us and we are in a safe place. We can handle whatever comes up. And we have to be making progress. We have to be making progress. If we're not making progress, we are rotting on the vine. And I don't know if you've been there, but I've been to pretty much all these places. I'm recovering from a lot of them, and simply through this education that has been so long coming, I've just been, goodness me, so confused and distrusting and living in chaos. So we need to do, when we've got that sense of progress, and we're moving ahead we get meaning in our lives, we're feeling loved, then we know that we matter. So we've got all those in place. Another way to look at the relationship between the inner world and the outer worlds is to see them in terms of cause and effect. Cause and effect. We know it's, for those who don't, it's taking responsibility above the line, you're getting results, and you are a victor, or if you're below the line, you're not taking responsibility, you're not owning your shit, you are not, and you've got very spasmodic results, if any, and you are living below the line and you are playing a victim. So all we've got to do is turn all that around and find out which need causes what response in another need. For example, when we have fulfilled our need for gratitude with our inner world need, we can experience the feeling of love from somebody else outside of us. We can't experience out there what we don't first hold in here. Our inner world truth reflects the extent to which we can experience the outer world. And I like the way this is done. There is a gift in your pain. We've built mental and emotional muscle to compensate for our needs not being met, and when they were not met. And this has propelled us forward. So why don't you take out your pen and list 5 or more, if it's 10, whatever it is for you, more ways of having your needs not met has helped you to become who you are today, and how it's helped you to build strengths in other areas, and how it's helped you to become more resilient, more courageous, more creative, more empathetic, more passionate, whatever it is for you. Write that list out, and that gives you something to do and something to reflect back on. And it's really good when you just let stuff fall out of your head, because that's when good stuff and true real stuff falls out of your head. When you are in that creative vibration, when you have got gratitude for anything, and we all know how to get in contact with ourselves, and we do it in different ways. So however it works for you, do that. And when you do that, like how the needs that you couldn't have met before, and how that helped you build your resilience and your courage. What has to happen for you to be able to do that? Who has to be included? What has to happen for you to feel and know that your pivotal needs were being met on a consistent basis in a way that had meaning for you. What had to happen and who had to be there, who had to be included. It's also okay to communicate your needs to others poorly. It doesn't matter what you do, and the first time you do it, it's clunky. It's clunky. So, just do it find someone to do it with, someone you trust, and learn how to communicate your needs and your emotions and your boundaries. Learn how to do all that stuff. It's an inside job, goodness me. And we've got to do it in there before we can project it out. So, if it feels clunky, that's okay. It's okay. It takes time. Doesn't matter what it is. Repetition, makes you better. And preparation, just go for it. What you think you may need may be clunky. You might not be able to express it. You might not be able to articulate it. You might cry. That's okay. It may be very difficult to say, and it could be very, very uncomfortable to express. But when you've got your boundaries in place, and you are only dealing with people you've only got people in your life who are resourceful, except for maybe a few family or whatever, but you can also drop them to other levels, like, goodness me, there's 8 kids in my own personal family. I've got 7 siblings, and we're all still alive, and I don't know how old the youngest one, 55 or something, and not everybody talks to everybody. It's a shame, but they can't even have a surface level discussion. Just a very uncomplicated, simple conversation, like they can't forgive, they can't forget, they can't take responsibility, they can't own their own shit. And so, I know fathers who are not talking to their daughters. Well, what happens? You die without ever doing it, and that is what we regret. That is what we regret, things like that. And that's a terrible way to be. So you and I, we're not going there. And so when it's, just practice makes perfect, even though I don't believe in perfect. That was all I could come up with at the moment for expressing your needs, saying what you feel, how you feel, owning it. It just takes time. So you may be used to having your needs ignored. Totally. A lot of people are in relationships, they've been in there and they're just dying a slow death, and they're not getting their needs met. They're not, not being able to express their emotions, positive or negative. And they, they just feel as though they do not matter. So a lot of that is actually to do with not having any boundaries in place. Boundaries is so good. It's just such a big, big discussion. And I'm going to show you my boundaries rock here. Look at that. I know I showed you before, but it's just so impactful that was. And boundaries rock. This really got me to make boundaries. I started collecting stones off the beach that had these boundaries in. And that is the only reason that I developed boundaries, which I'm so proud of now. I've actually sold myself out totally in relationships, being a people pleaser. And heaps and heaps of time I've said no when I should have said yes, and yes when I should have said no, and stop when I should have said go. Oh. But, hey, like I said initially, I'm on a journey. I'm not a guru, I'm on a journey just like you. That's right. Then because once you get, if you're having your needs ignored and expressing that need, a lot of people, especially like if you're a people pleaser, maybe your mother, you used to give. And, you might think that sort of this feels selfish, very self-indulgent of you. And your self-talk will kick in, tell you that it doesn't matter if that you're being self-centred. That is only silly anyway, and that you'll do it when the time is right. Well, if you're a seasoned procrastinator and you think you're going to do it later, just please check out your history. And I had to do this, and wow, talk about uncomfortable feeling. You got to own your shit. You got to face up to everything. And I'll do it later. No, you won't. Science tells us we won't do it later. And I can actually back this up from my own scientific experience, which covered a lot of years. I'll do it later. I think I've got all this time. But time runs out. Just think of all the songs that you know about time. And usually if I put pressure on myself to think about something, then I have trouble. You know, like if somebody's there and, I know their name but I can't think of it, and I've got this other person there and I've got to introduce them and can't remember their name, whenever that goes on, I've got no chance of remembering their name. And I'll tell you what, that was a great distraction. It took me somewhere. Now I don't know where I am. Oh, there's a gift in my pain. So what is one thing that you wanted to hear, that you never heard? Could have been from your mother, from your father. Could have been from your lover, your husband, your wife. Could have been from your kids. Who knows? This could have been from everyone that you never ever heard it. What was that one thing that you wanted to hear? Maybe it was, I love you. Maybe you never even knew your parents and you never heard that. Say that to yourself now, that one thing that you wanted to say. And look in the mirror. Like, I get a little bit emotional talking about that because, wow, I've had a lot of love in my life, but, I've had a lot of strife as well and a lot of stuff that I created myself. But, some parents are just totally emotionally unavailable, and they can't say to people, like, even if it's a partner or someone, they can't be vulnerable enough to put it out there first and say, I love you. And when they're not used to doing that, they don't love themselves. And how do you feel being on the other end of that? So you've got to learn to give that to yourself, that you love yourself. You're worthy, you are lovable, and you matter. There's no doubt about it. Do it for you. Do it for you, and do it now. Because that time keeps on slipping into the future. That song, Time Is On My Side, no, it isn't. It isn't. Time's a ticking, baby. That's it. There's 58 million songs about that, and I can't remember any more, but thank you. Reciprocity. Now, this is really, really a big one. It is as important that we learn how to meet the needs of those around us in a healthy, meaningful, caring, respectful and loving way. The day we care about meeting someone else's needs as much or more than our own needs being met, we get it. And I don't mean selling yourself out all the time so you can meet their needs more. No. You have to meet your own needs, and they have to. But when you do that for people, and this is what we're talking about, reciprocity, I respect, I recognise respect and reciprocate. It's a two-way street, as we've said a few times, obviously. But I do that for you, you do that for me. You respect my boundaries. You let me feel my emotions and you validate them. And boundaries, you know that you have your healthy boundaries in place. And when you do that, if you haven't got boundaries in place, you can't trust yourself. Now, I only heard this last week from a girl called Teal Swan, and gee whiz, in my case, it was just so true, so true. And that's, when you don't trust yourself, it's hard to make decisions. And look, I go dancing a lot, and we were only talking about this last night, about how many males and females It doesn't really matter what age you are, but obviously the older you are, the more chance you've had to be this way. Is, you know, like, we don't trust the opposite sex, and deep down, it's not the opposite sex that we don't trust. It's ourselves. Internally, we don't trust ourselves. We've made a lot of bad decisions. I know heaps of men and heaps of women, and gee whiz, I'm right in there. So I'm not claiming, you know, like knightdom or saintdom or whatever that is, sanctity. I don't know what it is, but it's terrible. It's an absolutely terrible way to be. So when you've got good boundaries in place, you've got all these boundaries, needs and emotions there. You got, you know, like, your life's looking pretty good. And you've got an even better chance of being able to rise to meet an obstacle and push through, because you're game enough to take a risk because you've got faith in you. That sense of individuality that we were talking about, as well as needing to belong and to be important from within a community, we need to know that we are valued for the unique individual that we are and the magic that we bring to the universe. We need to be seen for who we are, not for who someone needs us to be or who wants us to be or wishes we were like. We need to be valued for who we are. To be seen, validated and accepted as we are is a huge piece of our mental health tapestry. Absolutely. We need to be loved. We want to be loved and cherished and cared for. No matter how capable we are, we all need to know that we can rely on and count on being cherished by someone else. And I think I mentioned this before, but, you know, like Tony Robbins' 6 core needs, and, you know, we all need significance and we all need love and connection. And how many times have you heard, you know, like, if we don't have love, if we don't love ourselves, and people die of loneliness because they never learn this stuff. They never learn how to feel. They've shut off from feeling in the distant past. So we need that sense of the sense of individuality. As well as needing to belong, to be important within a community, we need to know that we are valued as a unique individual that we are. And it's great to be repeating this, because I think it's worth repeating. We need to be seen for who we are, not for who someone else wants us to be or needs us to be. We've got to live our life. We've got to be, our purpose is to step into our power and uniqueness, to become a more empowered leader, to be able to take risks, to reach our full potential and love our life. That's our purpose. We've got to love who we are. We've got to you don't have to ease into it. You can go in as hard as you like. But that's where we've got to go. To be seen, validated and accepted is a huge piece of our mental tapestry. To be loved. We want to be loved, cherished and cared for. No matter how capable we are, we all need to know we can rely on and count on being cherished by somebody else. We need a sense of stability. No matter who we are and how much success we have in terms of achievement, we all need to know that our basic survival needs are taken care of. Shelter, food, stable relationships and a sense of certainty about our basic lives. About the basics in our lives. When we can't count on or neglect our basic survival needs, we place ourselves under undue stress, which then distracts us from getting on with the choices that can give us a more fulfilling life. That's true, absolutely. And we need to know that we matter. Whilst we can nurture ourselves and fulfil our own inner world needs, there is a part of us that craves and needs to be part of a broader collective, beyond ourselves. We want to and need to feel connected and important in the group. It's not enough to have a family of colleagues. We must know that in their eyes we are significant, we matter, and that we are important to them. So thank you so much for that. That covers off the vital needs, and there's a lot of gold in there. So thank you so much for clicking on. And if you know someone that might value from this, please share it. And if you want to contact me, it's robcummins1@live.com.au. Also, you can call me on 0419436859, call or text. And you can like me on Facebook. And thank you so much for being here. Absolute pleasure to have you here. Thank you.